Hello, my name is Dr. Christopher Differ. I will be demonstrating today's product for DNA extraction and PCR diagnostics that Biotech has to offer the food and drink industry. Based in Potsdam, Germany, we have over 20 years experience in the development, manufacture and supply of qPCR methods for the food and drink sector. Our founder, Dr. Cornelia Berghoff-Jäger, is a member of various committees from German national regulators all the way up to the membership of ISO Group 16140. And we have over 130 staff focused and dedicated to qPCR based testing. This includes development, production, technical staff and support, with many of those members of staff involved with various committees. With this experience, knowledge and time in the food industry, we've got many kits that can help to support you no matter which area of the food industry you represent, and this gives you strength, depth and security to know that you've got great support in your testing and food integrity needs. Serving so many sectors of the food and drink industry means that we are a leading provider in bacterial and viral pathogens, spoilage organism testing, genetically modified organism testing, animal identification, hygiene and environmental testing. And whether this is for detection, screening, identification or quantification, we have solutions to meet your needs through qPCR. To ensure that your labs are getting the best of what you need, Biotech has become a one-stop shop for qPCR. Everything required for sample preparation, real-time PCR diagnostics, and all the devices that are required for doing the method. And this even includes consumables, enrichment medias, ELISAs, and advanced methods such as MALDI-TOF. With flexible, cost-efficient workflows that qPCR is providing food safety testing laboratories across the world, you're able to receive rapid and reliable test results, allowing you to securely improve food safety testing outcomes throughout your organisation. This allows for efficient monitoring of your production processes, earlier intervention into any risks before they grow too large, and then quicker intervention, meaning that you can get back to work as quickly as possible. You're even able to ensure quick and rapid testing of your end products, allowing you to receive quicker product release, therefore extending product shelf life and getting things out the door quicker, allowing you to reduce your storage costs. Biotech is supporting you throughout the entire workflow and provides support, kits and equipment to ensure that complete workflow is achieved quickly and reliably for your laboratory and for your company. Purchasing commercial kits from a manufacturer gives you many advantages. Knowing the specificity and sensitivity of a kit means you can have great security in the results that you're receiving, as well as a system that is robust to changes in volume and other aspects around the laboratory, as well as kits that are stable for long term but are checked lot to lot to make sure that your results are reproducible 1, 2, 3 or 4 years later. And with external accreditations from independent organisations such as Microval, Nordval or AFNOR, you can be certain that you're purchasing quality products. And we even provide internal validation reports just to demonstrate the effectiveness of our kit systems. The qPCR workflow is brilliant. It doesn't matter if you're doing pathogen testing, spoilage testing, looking for animal species, quantifying GMOs. You're starting with an enrichment, which could be either something cultured, a direct sample, or a selection from a colony. Moving on to DNA extraction, where you're lysing and sometimes purifying material. And then following that on with the preparation of the PCR, running the PCR and conducting analysis. This simple, straightforward, flexible workflow that's applicable to so many things is great, making labs work more effectively and efficiently across the world. qPCR is a very important step in the DNA RNA extraction process. You're lysing cells to get to their contents either by chemical, heat and or mechanical processes with Biotech, and then you're following up sometimes with purification to remove undesirable contents to just provide superior purification, thus reducing false results. And biotech provide their extraction kits separately from their PCR kits just to make sure that you're getting the flexibility you need, whether that is going for the right throughput to suit your lab, whether you're a lab that does a lot of work below 24 samples per run, or going into the hundreds of samples per run but relying on technicians to do this manually, or you're opting for something that is a bit more automated in your laboratory. We have a solution for DNA RNA extraction that does suit you. Here you see a very good example of a low throughput extraction process for a laboratory with the example of the Salmonella genus plus SEST kit for Enteritidis intifimurium. From the beginning you see this two options for transfer of sample into tubes, either one volume for the rapid procedure and another volume for a sensitive procedure. This is just done with a simple pipette tip and Eppendorf tube, and just make sure to change your pipette tip each time just to prevent cross-contamination. Once you have your samples all pipetted, you head to the centrifuge and set up and spin up for a couple of minutes. A centrifuge like this, as you find in many different labs, and covers many different purposes. So that means you have something that can be a bit more multi-purpose in use, suiting many different workflows. Once you've went through the centrifugation step, you want to immediately remove the supernatant as soon as you can, and be very careful. Just take up the fluid, but leave a little bit left at the bottom just to make sure that you're not disturbing the pellet. That pellet should contain your sample and your possible salmonella. And each time make sure to just change those tips to prevent cross-contamination. And then now you're ready to use your lysis buffer. Normally you would have your lysis buffer prepared for this point, but we do want to show you what the box would contain, which is the quick guide and the bottle of lysis buffer. Prior to getting out there and doing your application of lysis buffer, just make sure to give it a gentle shake so that it's nice and mixed up and ready for use. And now once you're using a clean pipette to transfer your lysis buffer, and always make sure to change your pipette, you can now get going. Interestingly, for some of you, that's the same pipette tip that you would use, same pipette that you would use for all the different aspects of this kit. So one pipetter is all you require. Give it a mix with a vortexer that looks like this one that's seen better days, or you can have other types of vortexers that can apply. Once you've given a good mix, give it an incubation for 10 to 15 minutes at 100 degrees. And this is a good opportunity to go and do set up your PCR or do a bit of cleaning as you're going along. Once you've did your heat incubation, be very careful not to burn your fingers as you take the tubes out. Give it another mix once it's cooled down so that you're ready to get to the next step. As I would also like to note, these are all devices, including this centrifuge here again, that are available in your lab already in many cases. But if not, once you've got these devices, they can be used for so many other methodologies that you see in your lab, and it's important that you can have something in your lab that is a bit flexible. Now we're getting close to being able to do your PCR. It's now time to get your PCR kit out. And as you see from this lovely box, you get a quick guide, some extra caps, your aluminium bag with your PCR strips, and your positive control in this purple cap, and some negative controls in these clear caps, which is just PCR grade water. And these kits come pre-lyophilized. These are got the powdered reaction mixture at the very bottom, so all you need to do is take out the PCR strips in the correct number that you required, and just make sure that when you're doing this, just close the bag tightly when you're done. Carefully open the strip that you require, discard those old caps, you no longer need them, and then start pipetting between 5 and 25 microliters of your sample, and then 25 microliters of your positive control or negative control. The volumes must always be 25 microliters, but that's fine. And then once you've did all that, seal the top very carefully with the caps provided. No pesky films are required. It's much more convenient, easier, and a bit more responsive with the caps. Well, every PCR tube is marked with 1 or 2 circles. I sometimes recommend just using a bit of a pen to make sure you know the top from the bottom. And then you can use a little desktop centrifuge like this to mix your sample as well as give it a centrifugation. And then when you get to a PCR machine like this Roche Light Cycler 96, you can take your strip, add in correctly, making sure the machine is balanced, close the door, select your correct PCR run, and press play. It's as simple as that. A good example of our high throughput extraction would also be the Salmonella genus plus Enterotitis and Typhimurium typing with the Star Prep 3 8-strip kit. This is the kit that comes with all the plastics you require, the caps, the 8-strip tip boxes here, complete with rack, and all the lysis buffer that you require. This kit is a 480 reaction extraction kit, so you've got plenty of there for the work that you're doing. If you're working with a smaller batch than normal that day, you can just take a rack and the strips that you require, gently shake and suspend your sample, and then take the volume that you require. In one case it would be 500 microliters for one of your procedures, but in another case it would be 100 microliters for your procedure. And as before, it's just transfer into each strip, and then make sure between samples you're changing for a nice clean pipette tip. Once you've got all your samples there, put on your sterile caps such as this, and this makes sure that throughout the procedure they're not popping off during heating or centrifugation and causing cross-contamination or a mess in your lab. First step would then be to centrifuge in a large centrifuge like this, and this is where a special rotor comes into place just to hold those tip boxes. Once you've did your centrifugation, you just use a decapper tool like this to quickly and easily take off your caps, and this can be used with the multiple caps across the tube. And then you take an 8-channel pipette like this to remove the supernatant, and as before, be very careful not to remove your pellets at the bottom, as that could contain that possible salmonella contamination. And again, this very similar Star Prep 3 solution as we saw in this low throughput example. You put this into a reservoir, allowing you to then take your 8-channel pipette, briefly pipette up and down to ensure a good mixture. And then transfer into your 8-strip tube. You really want to make sure that your pellet is really suspended, making sure that it's well mixed so that you're getting a good level, even lysis of your sample, and making sure that you're getting a nice sensitive result. And then seal your tubes with aid of the capper. Our racks come with this removable rack bottom, and the reason for this is that you would want to be able to put the tubes onto this rack and then put the frame into a heating block like this one. When you've got the heating blocks all set up, you can then put your tubes in, put a little lid on top and a level weight to make sure that those caps don't pop off, and you can incubate for the required amount of time and temperature. Then you remove everything and let cool down to room temperature, and put the caps and the tubes back into a rack with the sealed bottom and centrifuge for one more period of time. This gives you a chance to open up that PCR box again, and you get to see the lovely quick procedure, the caps, the bag containing the PCR strips, and your positive and negative controls, which are all essential and required to making sure that you're doing good laboratory work. You can always take the strips that you require, or if you're working with 96 samples per time, you can just keep the strips intact and just work straight from the box. So make sure that everything's all open prior to starting to fill your PCR strips. One thing you can do if you're really conscious about work is remove the 8 strip caps for the corresponding PCR plate as you progress, so that you know what tubes you're filling and what tubes you're taking samples from. And then you can just use another 8-channel pipette to fill in these 8 strips in one pipetting step. Once you've correctly did this, seal the tubes with the correct 8 strip caps. And then let's get ready to do some qPCR after we mark the ends of our PCR strip and do a little bit of centrifugation in a vortex centrifuge like this one. And we see the Roche light cycler 96. Place your PCR strips into the instrument. Select the protocol that you desire, press play, and you've started your PCR run. This was very easy, done with a kit that includes all the plastics with very few pipetting steps, and is also a format that is applied to many other kits across our range, whether you want to test for Listeria, S-Tech, or many other parameters. Biotech on Diagnostics Lyo kits are a fantastic addition to any laboratory's workflow. With them coming as a dry powder in these 8 strips, you can select the appropriate amount of samples that suit the work that you're doing at any one time. But with a one-step PCR preparation of just adding your sample and controls, you're going to be working much more quickly and effectively. And you can even get greater sensitivity in results, being able to take samples from between 5 and up to 25 microliters compared to the typical 5 microliters that you normally see. And with these kits being thermally robust, you get to save money on dry ice, which you don't need for shipping, and you get to store these kits for a very long time in the refrigerator. But at the same time, you don't need to worry about any enzyme denaturing during handling, because the enzymes are more robust. You don't have to work with cool boxes either. And each kit comes with an internal process control and UNG, which is there to make sure that your results are very reliable and not subject to any issues with contamination or inhibition. And with many of our kits, absolute quantification is possible by application of a standard curve. With the experience and attention we give to qPCR for the food and drink industry, we have developed more than the kits than we've just demonstrated today, and we have something for every food safety testing lab in the world. And if you would like to find out more about any kits or systems that you would like in your lab or need for your testing purposes, I definitely recommend that you get in touch with someone at Biotech Diagnostics as quickly as possible. And you can find information about our kits and our company by going to these following links, either for our website, or if you're looking for something, check out our product finder. It will give you the best ideas of combinations of PCR diagnostic kit and extraction kit for your lab. And if you can't find what you're looking for, don't hesitate to give us a call or email. I'd like to thank you very much for your attention today. I wish one day to see you again, hopefully at our beautiful facilities here in Potsdam, Germany, where we can hopefully share a beer and bratwurst and discuss the amazing science that can help keep your company's food safe and of top quality.